Hello world, hello internet, and welcome to the fourth episode of the 2023 Nix Developer Dialogues. I am Valentin, your host. My name is Frickler Handwerk. My host name, my internet name is Frickler Handwerk. And if you're watching this in a recording 100 years from now and want to know more about the show, please check the first episode. Spoiler, it's about people and stories from the Nix ecosystem. What's on, what's hot, what's being debated, what's cooking for the future. And for everyone who's live with us here today, again, please send us your comments and questions from anywhere you're watching this. There's also a Matrix link in the calendar event for the show. And in the same calendar event, you'll also find a link to this very studio, which you can join to ask your questions in person. It will be awesome to have you here. With that out of the way, let's welcome our guest today, Rok Garbas. I hope I didn't butcher your name. You're known as Garbas on the internet. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for organizing all of this. It's awesome. Glad to be
here. Great that you have time to be here with us today. Our topic today is the NixOS hype and where to go from here. But before we start, let me introduce you a little bit. So you're a very familiar face in the Nix ecosystem. You started, I looked it up in 2014, contributing to Nix packages with updating innocent Python packages such as Sphinx 1.2 back in the day. And you got involved very quickly. You actually organized the first NixCon in Berlin in 2015. You came up with the name. You invited all the people. We'll talk about that a little bit in the next minutes. You also made a talk that still resonates today at that first NixCon, Make Nix Friendlier for Beginners. I'm curious what changed since you started that endeavor. Since 2020, you've been leading the Nix marketing team, which is a group of volunteers taking responsibility for representing the Nix ecosystem to the outside world, taking care of outreach on social media, things like that. And you've also driven the redesign of the NixOS.org website when you started back in the day, and there's still stuff going on. We'll talk about that as well. Now, I hope you will tell us more about yourself when you answer my first and obvious question to you. And I'm sure you vividly remember who or what got you into Nix back in the day and why are you still here?
So I have to go back 10 years ago, right? Or actually a bit more. But as you mentioned, I was actually working on a lot with Python back then. So, and we deployed bigger systems, like the projects looks like today's NPM project where you have like a few thousand packages inside, right? So, but this was like, imagine 10 years ago. And if we think that Python packaging sucks today, or at least that's sometimes I have this impression still from people, it was nightmare back then. So, as every good engineer, you try to solve the problem and you start writing your own package manager. And, a few iterations, and then you just meet, I think it was Florian Friesdorf. Thank you, Florian. He sort of got me, got the Nix on my radar, and yeah, it was like, it was not smooth ride from there. I'll be honest. But yeah, that's how I got started. Basically trying to solve problems of packaging. And I started already writing my own package manager for Python. I saw this, I was like, hey, I don't need to do this work. It was already done. Great idea. Let's just jump in and help. So I guess, yeah, that was it. That was when we were still using SVN for all the Nix packages. So fun times.
But you're still here almost 10 years later, right?
Yeah, no, still kicking, yeah.
Yeah, you've been working at Mozilla. Did you proselytize Nix back then? And you've been at Twig, and now you're working at Flux, which is a Nix first company.
Yeah. Well, actually, I moved to Berlin for my first job. That was, I don't even know when, around 2015, maybe 14. That was actually my first Nix job. There was a company called Roadcode. You can check it out, what they do. They're still kicking around. So that was, I wrote an installer, which was for me an obvious and easy thing to do. Because, you take the closure, you package everything. So we could do offline installations. That was the requirement, right? So that was a really nice use case, which after that job, I got the proof that Nix can be used in professionally, right? And that, some I don't want to name the companies who are using this installer, but there are some pretty big organizations that were basically, once we switched to the new installer, which was Nix backed, our tickets went from, I think we got 10 or 15 a month. They went down to I think was one or two a year, but that basically was a typo in the URL they pasted. So it was really stable and working. So and then I joined, also Mozilla. I was their release engineer for some time, and we as every Nix user, you try to convince people to use Nix. But I don't think the Nix was ready yet back then. I don't think we are yet now, but we are very, very close. But yeah, everybody there knows about Nix. Let me tell you this. So everywhere you go, I try to. And then we actually work together at Week. Now work at Flux. We try to do something with Nix, try to get it into more hands, make it more approachable. I think that has been maybe for the last, since I organized the NixCon, that has been the team, bring Nix into the hands of many. I don't know, but I was just thinking when I got this invitation, is I think I have at least 1,000+ stories. That I can, not that I can remember, but I think there must be, I have so many stories that I can refer to, talking to people how they started using Nix. Because I talked in these years to every conference is at least 10 to 20 people that tell me how, I ask them, of course, how did they start using Nix? And it's interesting, I'll put it this way.
Are there a lot of recurring motives and patterns?
Yes. The most fun one, actually the most prevalent one is, this is going to sound so bad because it's nothing you can do, but it's the timing is important. You have to be there at the right time. Either you need a tool or something is broken, you're sad, you have time. And then usually we like to consider ourselves, I think I mentioned this already at the NixCon this year, but we engineers likes to consider ourselves as how you call this, reasonable, rational. We like to think that we put things on the pros and cons column, and then we are not. We're just humans. Literally, it goes through the heart. Things that convince people to use Nix almost don't have to do with all the cool features. Yes, later they stay for these good features, but those initial parts are sadly are just I can use this to configure my NeoVim. It's not something you could make your work faster. No, it's I can rise more. That's basically it.
Well, for those who have had the opportunity to configure the NeoVim, Nix definitely helps in getting work faster.
Oh yeah.
So getting to work.
Rising is one of those things that I will never be able to charge anybody for, and I spend more time than I should, as we all did. And Nix is the best tool to do rising. So.
Definitely. So what changed since 2015, since you gave your talk? So I just watched it for entertainment and curiosity, and a bunch of other talks. And yes, Python packaging apparently was a nightmare back in the day. So what changed? So Elko showed a few numbers in his keynote. There was on the order of 1,000 users of Nix and NixOS. Today we're in the tens of thousands. But
yes.
Apart from that, so does it feel different?
It feels different. I would say yes, if you use flakes. But I'll put it this way, right? That's sort of, for me, that's sort of the milestone we are walking towards. And it's almost like it's going away. Thanks to you, it's not, because I really will. We can mention it, but basically, we really need to reach that milestone. I think what I talked about is just sort of the first impressions that you get. How are others doing it? How are we? Why are we not doing it? The answer is pretty simple. I then also talked with Ilko after that, and it was the tool we created was inspired, the command line was more inspired by the RPM and those tools, because those were the tools to use in 2003, 4, 5. So make sense, then transitioning is hard, right? So I think we're on the right way. Like they are many things that we need to fix, but flakes in majority of what they bring are like a really this is the step we were looking for. Like, yeah. So
okay, can you expand on what flakes bring in this regard? So in terms of usability and onboarding new users?
Yeah. So I mean, let's just put it this way. It's now possible to explain in one page how to use Nix, right? With for this, let's say, local development. And this means end-to-end, with like locking is taken care of, like these basic things that you do, adding packages. It's not if you want to be exhaustive tutorial, like a proper long-term, yeah, it's going to be a few pages, but kind of going to the marketing team, like marketing team will have the tools then that will say like, hey, run these 3 commands, do some text around, and we will be able to excite people to go and read the bigger tutorial, right? And right now we need to be careful. What do we put in front of the users? Because we don't want to lie to them like, oh, Nix is the greatest, and then yeah, it's not. They are very at the current state. They are very raw. Few. I mean, there are many, not very. There are many raw edges, which is fine. And yeah, this is just how do we. I think even your job will become easier once flakes land, or the documentation part. So this is what I'm getting excited about. We will be able to teach people. The UI looks more consistent. Hopefully there will be less tools to use with Nix. So yeah, that sort of thing. That's my perspective on it. Like, I know that they are like, do we do the proper locking file? Is the format correct? There are many questions there, but just stepping back, it's like, can I teach this in a few lines of code? Sure, I can. In 3 slides, I could teach them. Enter the development environment, create a build. Okay, build. I'm probably not, but yeah. It's
okay. You in that talk you said that we're too deep into this. We have to consider how new users approach the system. What still needs to change, or do you feel that's still the case? Are we still too deep into the system, or are we more looking at the surface of it? And what needs to change to make that better?
We are. And I think this sort of we are too deep into our ways of working. One of the first thing sort of which I'm trying to also, I think many of us are trying to push, is we don't realize how great Nix Shell is, right? Nix Shell is revolutionary if you're not in the Nix. For us, it comes just like a natural, it's a second, we don't even think about it. Of course you have Nix Shells. Now, this is a simple concept for us, but it brings a lot of, yeah, it's how to say, a really nice entry point. You don't have to switch your operating system to NixOS, and developers can use it immediately, right? So we need to bring those things that are already good now, like Nix Shell, upfront to the people. But then the other one is Docker images. Just because Docker is the topic, this is sort of more driven from the outside, because Docker is the topic. Everybody's doing Docker images. Well, we do them actually better. I just had a presentation now in what was DevOps Days, Warsaw. And yeah, we got some eyes. They were like, is this possible? You can go that small with Nix, few lines of code. Yes. But yeah, that's another topic.
Yeah, I suppose we could talk for hours, so we have to kind of squeeze it into what we have here. So why did you start back in 2020? The website looked different. Why did you start working on it? Was it not good enough?
Oh, yeah. So why I actually started with marketing is more like, I think for me, it's you heard, it's like the road to adoption is, you hear about Nix, you go to the website, you most likely download it or read something about it, then you forget about it. Then somebody else was telling you about it, then you come back to the website. That's I would say the usual flow, and then you need documentation. And clearly the website was the item there. Like, I understand that documentation is needed, but I also said nobody will do the website and this kind of stuff. And it's true, nobody wants to do it still.
Hackers don't tend to take care of the surface?
Oh, yeah, it's like, it's the less, it's not actually so easy task as well. So the website, we said, okay, we're gonna do, let's say, refresh. And why I started the marketing team is, in order to do proper marketing, you need to answer some, proper marketing. In order to create the front page, you need to answer certain questions, which is, who's our audience, right? Or then you actually need to select your audience. And it's not that like, everybody's our audience, but who are you focusing on, right? That's the landing page is usually the one that you're like, hey, I'm gonna try to attract more aggressively certain audience. And actually, this is what we're trying to do. We can go a bit later into this detail what we're planning to do, but yeah, that's how we started. We just needed an update. What we have currently is a bit of a consensus, which is not always great, but it was needed first step to switch. Then things a bit slowed down. People got busy. I was switching jobs. Corona, yes, and all of this. So I think now, since June, May last year, we are a bit more active on the marketing front again.
Yeah, we'll talk about marketing more, about what's currently going on in the future in a minute. Here we have an audience question, so let's bring that on the screen. Arthur is asking, what are flakes good for? Let's talk about flakes.
Yeah,
what are they good for?
So I would say they organize your Nix code, right? And they provide, they organize your Nix code, and they tell the command line how to use it, right? So the command line, currently, you can create any files you want in any shape or form. They can return, right, any type of objects, and you need to document this yourself. Now, if we as a community want to share this code between each other, and it's nice to have some sort of standard. And flakes.nix is like, we have the file. It gets locked. That's also another feature, which is nice by default.
What does locking mean?
Locking means that if you say, oh, please, we are using Nix packages, which we always do, or some other repositories. I guess we call them inputs inside our flakes Nix file. And we refer to a branch. And then when you do Nix build, Nix run, Nix develop, and so on, from Flux Nix, we create Flake Nix file. We create a Flake log file. And that is sort of analogous to all the other package managers, where you refer to a package range, and then they lock it to specific version. In our case, we point to GitHub repositories, or just any repository, and we when we lock it, we refer to specific revision, which means something that you built today. Like, this is really the feature we all want, which is like, something you built yesterday will be the same as you will be building today, or in the best case, you won't be building it because it's already there.
Now, Flakes is an experimental feature. It's been actually forever. It's actually the first experimental feature that was introduced to Nix, and it's been that way for now almost 4 years. Is there, like, I suppose there's some challenge explaining people, that's what I want for Nix, so that's what you're saying, but it's still experimental. How do you deal with that ambiguity?
There are two ways. First, you don't mention it, because you try to, if you just talk about the Docker, building Docker images, you just explain the whole thing. It's fine. If you want to talk about the Nix shells, so the development environment, you can get away by not explaining any about the flakes, right? So if you use my way of doing is you ignore it and you go straight into the direction of your end work and what you want to achieve. Now flakes would make this more like, if I explain, I would never explain flakes, to be honest. I would always just use them, right? And I think but it will allow us to showcase much more like stuff, and they will just like, I don't, here I would always need to explain, oh, but then you need to lock to have it really reproducible, and there I would not have to, right? It was just like, hey, in order to bump, you just run a command, that's it, like any other package manager. Yeah.
Okay, so now marketing team, you said to run proper marketing, you need to choose a target audience, you need to address it in a proper way. So what's the target audience of Nix and NixOS? And what are you marketing? Is it Nix? Is it NixOS? Is it Flakes? What is it?
Yeah, so hard topic, very hard. Anybody you ask in community will come up with a different answer. Who is our users? What is the best feature in Nix or the whole community, right? What's that? What should we put on the front page? And it's a hard choice. And sort of whatever you select, you're going to make people not happy, portion of them. So it's but I look at this, which is in order to attract more users. We can talk why we need to attract more users, but in order to attract,
we will.
In order to attract more users, you need to hit the right market. By market, I mean the area where there is enough developers and you have enough compelling features that you're different enough and you bring enough value. Not only if you're slightly better, but you're much better. And you need to hit the right group of people. Meaning, my nice example is if you give me an option, if I want like few percent of development environment of all developers, few percent, or I want 100% of the Linux distribution, I would always say, give me few percent of the developers, all right, as our users, because that would be bigger number than Nix. Now, I'm not saying, right, NixOS is not important. It's just NixOS, right? I would actually even say that Nix benefits because of NixOS later, right? If you have this, once I graduate my Nix with Nix, I can actually move to something even more amazing. And it actually goes the other way around. Somebody gives NixOS a try, and it's like, awesome, my setup is great at home, and then it comes to work, and it's like, oh man, right? So there is a really big symbiosis here, and actually in the last 2 years, because since we did the redesign, we put this reproducible, I even forgot, reproducible builds and dev environments, and it's really hard to explain in one sentence what Nix is or NixOS, right? Because for some people, Nix is one aspect of Nix is great, reproducibility. But then if you ask people what reproducibility is, you have 10 different answers and so on. So it's really hard. So what we are actually currently thinking we will try to focus instead of on the features that Nix provide, we will focus on the target groups, sort of on the people. So what our next iteration is slowly going to look like of the messaging, we'll talk about the website, is that Nix is the best development tool, for the best tool for developers, right? So instead of talking about we will explain all the features later, but we need to come up with something, which, if you think about it, is actually really slides nicely, connects nicely with the NixOS, because what NixOS is then, it's the best Linux distribution for developers. In reality, that's, and you can also go why this is. I'm not saying that it's not for desktop users, but a lot of our users are developers for a good reason. And also the workflow, like if you, in the last year, there was a lot of videos and about Nix and NixOS especially. What stood to me that 3 or 4 videos independently, right, realized that this is really good for developers, right? This is for me a bit like, I was thinking this before, but you're always like, I'm not sure if I should say this, right? But once you hear it from few people came to the same conclusion, yeah, we will try this messaging, and this is not something that will stay. We will change it every year if we need to, or every month if we need to. But it's definitely something we want to try.
Yeah, I've been reading people commenting on this idea of that targeting Nix and especially NixOS primarily to developers would be a disservice to NixOS because it could be so much more. Same as Nix because it's much more general, as you said, it can be doing a lot more things. And for some context, so the videos that you're referring to, a few YouTube videos got like on the order of 300, 400, 500,000 views, making so this is why we call this show the NixOS hype. Suddenly it got on the radar of a bunch of people, which put it on the radar of a lot more people. And so my next question is, so what's next? Where are we heading from here now that hundreds of thousands of people got aware of NixOS, potentially not Nix because it's still kind of hidden beneath the surface for many who don't get as deeply into it as we do. What's next?
Actually, so there are 2 ways, right? So either you come to Nix, somebody tells you about Nix, and you come then to NixOS and you're a home manager and you're all happy, or you go the other way, which is now NixOS. So for all the Linux enthusiasts, they set it up. They will quickly realize that at work they are not allowed to use it, but they can use Nix. So this is for me. I want to make sure that we are the developer toolkit that anybody can use, either as a full OS or just a small. I would even say, like, if you think about NixOS, like our workflow is actually how developers work. You have a file, you change it, you run a command. That's what DevOps does, right? Dev being the mentioning developers, right? So it's I think this will be our first group of people, developers, which will bring us even to bigger heights, either as a Nix or NixOS. Meaning that adoption always happens. You always need to pick I would say a niche that you're really good at, and you also need to select your target audience that's big enough to bring you over the hype. And
cross the chasm.
Cross the chasm, exactly. So that, and I think this group of people, developers, is big enough group that will get us there. So it's what was your question?
So what's next? But actually, the developers is actually a good point. So you said that Nix and NixOS are particularly suited for developers. Why is that? So apart from kind of following the usual developer workflow and changing code.
That's actually it. Okay. It's familiar. It's familiar to them. To any other sys administrator, Nix feels like, no, you should not do this. I have my own scripts. And for developers, this is like, this is how all my other stuff works, and it makes sense. Why is nobody else doing this? Like, there were a few comments I saw, which is like, why is no other distribution doing this? And they're, of course they can, but we are in this position that we are doing this because that's the only way. That's the way to configure a file, run a command. That's how you update. Change. You want to do another change the file, right? So so for me, this is where our next road is going to be focusing more on developers. I would say that we will not try to market too much of Nix and NixOS, Nix, as in like it's the best solution and everything, until flakes are there. Once that's done, we will go wild, which means like maybe, even spending on promotion and stuff, sending people, like we need a big boost then once this lands. Because what you don't want in marketing is, or the type of marketing I don't want to do is the one that lies and deceives people. And there are a few rough edges in Nix, and it's fine. I would even say we should be frank about that. Nix is not the easiest thing to learn. it's worth it, yes, but it's not going to be like 5 minutes as with any other package manager. And I think why I actually named the team marketing team is because I want to do the nice marketing. I don't want to do the clickbaits and all this stuff. I really want to put Nix and NixOS in a position that they can be adopted. Give them the fighting chance against other who are actually doing even the not so nice marketing. So I want to do like, okay, let's just put ourselves in position that we could be considered as a serious tool.
We'll come to some audience questions in a minute, but before that, so what's your vision for the future of Nix? Do you want it to get ready for mass adoption?
Yes, that's sort of the next. So Flakes is the first stepping stone into that direction. Documentation being, it's for me sort of part of that journey. NixOS, because I always like to forget is Nix. Like once you dip in this, like, oh, we have NixOS. NixOS is also part of this because I think maybe running it on a desktop is a smaller percentage of people who use it, but running in cloud, we are the best cloud Linux distro, if you ask me. So again, this will be sort of the niche we will try to, if I say exploit, I mean like in a nice way, right? But this will be sort of our target. We'll try to get in all the different app stores, marketplaces, and all of this. So that we are one click away for somebody to give us a try. And I think that will be my, if I would have to have some say in where we go, like Flakes as soon as possible. We have already, like our goal in the beginning, once we did the redesign was like, okay, Flakes are going to happen at one point. What can we do until then? That's sort of our current mode in marketing team. So that's why we were at one point a bit even like, okay, let's wait for Flakes to catch up. Because we were already ready to go next step, but then we will soon. So now we are like, okay, now even documentation is happening properly, right? And if I say prediction in 1 year, I don't want, but I hope I know we will be in a much better shape in 1 year. And what we build this hype already, this is the wave that will take us further, if I use the surfer terminology. Right.
Okay, let's discuss some audience questions. So there's some potential for actual discussion. So thank you very much for posting. So Choco Candy, I'll just put it on the screen and read it out loud, but we'll get from here. So quite a long message here. A question about Nix packages. There could be an OpenAI IDE that can do Nix packages much faster than any existing person and also make debugging Nix packages much easier. How do you think this can affect the Nix packages job market? I'm actually surprised there is one, but great. And what are your thoughts on such an AI tool that is specialized to do Nix packaging? I'll just drop in Ivan's response to this, and then Rok can pick this up. As a Nix packages maintainer, I actually think that packaging is one of the things which can't be very easily replaced by AI for many different reasons. What do you think about this, Rok?
Well, will be replaced by with the AI at one point, but until then, still have jobs. For me, it's just like it made me really happy because I saw job market. Like this was not even a term we were talking 10 years ago. It was just like, do you have enough time to come to Berlin to hack on stuff, right? It was like, and now we have a job market.
Yeah, there's people getting paid to do Nix all the time. We had the first episode with 2 full-time Nixers, and there's many more of them.
Awesome. So no, I think at this point, as with anything, with ChatGPT, OpenAI, all these tools, they will get you 80% there, right? You still need to walk the whole 100% in order to get something useful. But that 20%, the last one, is the hardest one. So I would agree that some jobs might be automated. So those packages which are easy to package, yes, there are quite few which are not, and those you will usually want to pay. Yeah, so I think it's just as we will grow more in importance, this is going to become less of a problem, I would even say. Like just because more people will chime in. But yeah, tools like ChatGPT and stuff, I already use them today, just because I know so many iterations of how we wrote derivations in package recipes. That's right. So that I'm not sure which is the latest one. So I just use ChatGPT to tell me what's the latest and greatest. So yeah, awesome. I think everybody should use it to cut on time so they can package more Nix packages.
So here's another question by Ivan. What do you think by the best cloud history? We are just talking about stopping publishing to AWS EC2 images. Nix can't run in AWS Lambda.
Yeah, it cannot run, but you can create, it can be a tool that builds something that you can use in AWS Lambda, right? So it can be used as a build tool there. So again, it's like really this developer toolbox that we have that you can, that you can actually shape into any type of form that you need to. And is it Docker image? Sure. RPM? Sure. Debian dev files? Why not? Right? It's like the end format is we're not so worried about once you have two things. Once you have those packages that you want in Nix, and once you have the function, right, which we call it the bundling functions, which you can transform your package into any shape. So, but the cloud distro, yeah, this was just what we were talking about. Like, I think this is like cloud distro. We just need to make it easy for people to try. So we need to proactively, once we will be ready, our release process of NixOS needs to change a bit so that it's a bit more scalable. But yeah, like we currently only do AWS. I don't see why we shouldn't be on all of the platforms, all of the marketplaces.
Okay, we also have another question about flakes, but I defer that to the Nix maintainers talk we'll have in a couple of days, and also about release process. We had a talk with Ryan Laffa recently. I recommend you to watch that if you're interested. So I have a question actually on being programmable. The whole ecosystem essentially is a big software project. Isn't that in a way to market it to a mass audience? Because most people actually don't want to program their operating system; they just want to do things, right?
Not sure I understand the question.
So NixOS, like it's a programming. You have to use a programming language to actually make use of it. Isn't that a problem for marketing it, to catering it to more people?
It is. Now I don't have a perfect solution like to this. Like I think we can get away. Like I've been trying to teach Nix the language, right? How can you explain in one slide in a presentation what Nix language is? And my last DevOps days, I think, talk in Warsaw was I had this problem as well. Again, like you show how to build Docker images, and there is a bunch of Nix stuff. The thing that's so the technique I usually use is where you show something that's very similar and everybody knows, and then you gradually transition to the Nix, so to your subject. So what I did here was I basically showed them how a Docker file looks like. I mean, everybody knows how it looks, but just, this is how you build the Redis image with Docker file. And then I said, like, okay, let's convert all of this into a JSON file. Everybody knows what I just did. No, I don't have to explain anything. They just look at it for awkward 10 seconds and it's like, awesome, got it. And then I said, like, okay, let's replace all the columns with equal signs and all the commas with semicolons. Okay, and we are 90% there. So that, I mean, this is a bit stupid approach to teach, but this kind of gives them like a reassurance that Nix is not that big of a monster. That is very similar to JSON, and then of course at the end I added the functions, which is another 2-3 minutes, but you can quickly if like there are ways how to teach Nix that are not so scary, I would say. Should we have another front-end language for simple use cases? Maybe. I would like to explore with this. Maybe we don't even have to explore this in Nix. There are other projects like Dev and Flux as well, and all the others which are exploring that route. And if that works, well, we have our answer. We just adopt.
Okay, let's talk more about growth. So where on this technology adoption curve are we currently? Back 10 years ago, there was definitely in the early adopters, completely crazy people who spend hours and hours on end, like getting the system to work. Where are we now?
We are, so it would be nice to show this adoption curve, because I'm not sure everybody's aware, like the...
Yeah, it's essentially a bell curve with lots small people on the left, lots of people in the middle, and then...
Yes, so, and there is this chasm, which is in the middle of this first, the first, how do you call, the first hill. So in the middle, there is this chasm, which is like the crucial moment when you're relevant enough for everybody else to care, right? And that's important that we cross it. Now, this is sort of this was our target, but this was basically my target since I started. Let's get to the chasm. Let's step over, so that like my idea was quite selfish. I want to use it at work. So once we reach that, then I will be actually able to say like, hey, let's use Nix at work, right? As we all
can't get fired for using Nix.
Get fired for using Nix. And then are we there? Depends who you ask. If you ask somebody in the Nix community, they will say yes, because you have all these signals coming. If you ask somebody outside, they will say you have quite a lot of positive things, but I don't think we're there yet. But we are just at the point, either we are just crossing it. I think we are, either we are just crossing it, and we just need to do a bit more. We are in the ballpark, I would say.
Okay, I had a very similar question, so thank you, Choco Candy, for asking it. Talking about Nix adoption, I'm a university student, and I use NixOS as my daily driver, but I don't see how I can apply my Nix knowledge to create something in the client-side space, not just deployments. And following up on that, do you have any ideas of a toy project in Nix that can help make Nix more accessible to users? So what is it that we can do to cross that chasm?
I would say this is sort of like, you need to teach Nix. Like, I think this is like the best way to learn how to make Nix more accessible is actually to teach it, and then we take those back. Now that we have documentation team, we have proper ways and channels where to put this knowledge back in, so it's not sort of hidden in the island. Like I did a talk, and then I think I discovered something that could be beneficial, and I now know who to go and talk and get a ticket open for this, and that I can work on. So to make Nix more accessible, so I would say this is a twofold. So how Nix is always going to be a contentious point, because it's a new language. It's not JSON.
People will say, what is even Nix?
Exactly. I would even say it's not even that important, right? It's just a language, right? So I think I'd rather go like this. Instead of talking what Nix is, what NixOS is, I'll rather change this the questions, and I said, like, what are the features? What are the benefits, actually? The benefit, not the features, the benefits that you get out of Nix. Talk about those. A nice example is the Explore page that we have on the nixos.org, which instead of talking about complete dependencies, closures, and reproducibility, we talk about like always working environments, which is, we're talking about the same thing, but in a different way, from the benefit perspective. So instead of saying what is Nix, it's like what is Nix good for, right? So just a bit of different perspective of talking, and it does magic, because then people are not so hung up on what Nix is, but actually, okay, what
can it do for you?
Even not that, it's more of that, if I use Nix, what am I? What more can I do? That's the I learned this from the Rust project. Like they have this what is the Fire Mario idea, where you have a Mario and you have a fire flower, and if you don't want to talk about the Mario, the user, that's the user, the fire flower is the feature. So the equation is Mario plus fire flower is equals Fire Mario, right? The one that can kill and everything. So you want to talk about once this jumps, you want to talk about the right part, the benefits combined with the user.
So don't talk about the superpowers, but what kind of superhero you will become if you use Nix.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much for your audience questions. Let's continue. So I wonder, with all this growth strategy, so the marketing team is pushing for growth, which challenges does that bring to the community? We're already in the thousands of active contributors. So if you look at NixPacker's contributor numbers, what happens if we're 10,000 or 100,000? Doesn't that put a lot of strain on people who are already deeply involved?
Yes. So I think just generally there are going to be more conflicts. There are going to be more conflicting opinions. Or just should we use spaces or tabs or things like this? One of those silly ones, and also those.
Should we use flakes or not?
Should we use flakes or not? There you go. So for so I would say that like the growing part is always painful. Like if you try to grow a company, you know that like once you grow until 100, it's, I would say in quotes, easy. But then there are gaps, there are sizes that just makes these things not 2 times harder, but like 10 times harder. And I think we're reaching that today. I think we're doing pretty good. Like we always gonna have problems because every community has problems, and that's a sign that we're growing. Like for me, this is like one of those signs. Like, hey, we have certain conversations which we didn't have before because we were just too small. So I don't have an answer for that. It's just we're gonna have to organize ourselves good. I think this having more teams, we're just gonna have to figure it out. Not every community is the same, and we'll have to figure it out on our own. It's like any child who needs to grow, they need to figure out on their own.
So on the way of figuring out, what are the next steps that you are planning with the marketing team? So you talked about like teaching and reaching out to specific audiences. What else? What is there specific that you're doing right now? Yeah, so on the concrete stuff, right now we are reworking the website. We're gonna change we were blocked by this many times. Which is underlying mechanism, how things are built, the static static generators and all this with CSS, how it's done. It's been blocking us for too long. So what we're currently doing, actually, hopefully we'll finish it this month, maybe definitely this year, right? Is that we're gonna change the underlying things and the site is gonna look the same, which is like the worst type of job. Like you're not making any improvements that you can show, but that's important first step. Then and then this will also already build the team that will that already are making notes, what to improve, where to improve, then we start improving. There are many parts of the website that we want to improve. This will sort of able us to do that. We will have sort of a more blog-like, not just aggregating content from elsewhere. What else? We want to write more information, write more original content about Nix.
Exactly. Yeah. So we will have a newsletter. I mean, we already have sort of semi-bootstrapped. Now more people join the newsletter. This was actually the whole idea. Like newsletter is out, but it's not yet there. How do I subscribe to the newsletter? We're gonna make this happen in the next few weeks, and everybody will be able to again subscribe. But we are just in bootstrapping. We have the team; they are doing the work. So the newsletter is one of those. The next things, survey.
You published the survey a couple of months ago for this year.
Yeah, which was a bit late. But we want to already start preparing for the next year's survey. I think it doesn't matter when you do it, as long as you do it around the same month. So the survey is the next one. We promise that we will promise to ourselves that we'll start preparing earlier. So preparations hopefully will start soon. So we'll get some data points.
You're also observing metrics, so the number of people visiting the website and Google search statistics. Are there any plans to get that more publicly visible? Because currently, I think it's only accessible to very few people, right?
Oh no, it's public accessible. Just you need to know the link, basically. Yeah, it's sort of the metrics are important. We are still missing few, right? So maybe I can show the metrics. Maybe that's.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, there we go. Wait, how do?
Oh no! Now you left the stream. That's what happens if you're live. So sorry for the small interruption.
Sorry, I'm back.
All good.
See, an old guy using computers. I need to share. There we go. Present. Share screen. I don't want to share screen.
There's a present button at the bottom.
Yeah, there is present, but where is the present? Share screen. Share screen and select the screen. Great. Which screen now?
Yes, computers are terrible. We're trying to make them less terrible with Nix.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so you should see yourself.
Infinite.
There we go.
How do I do this? I also have to struggle how to fix computers. Okay, here.
So there is the GitHub. So there is the project called NixOS Metrics, and some of where we collect. You see that there is READMEs just to do. So that's the state of it. But it's being on a daily basis. It's being collecting certain metrics, and it's just creating these nice graphs. Although we could push this data anywhere, right? But we just needed to graph them. But you can see like what's happening in the page views of the website. This is like the server-side metrics. Yeah, this is where the flat line you see in the middle. That's where the script was not working. But you can see there is like quite a big jump at the end. And then these are the unique visitors, or at least the ones we think are unique. Sources of traffic. We get a lot of direct traffic, but our Google search is actually increasing quite a lot as well. And then you have the last one, which is like we followed the Google trends, and the NixOS topic is just skyrocketing in the last since May, basically. I think it's around May that was the jump. Yeah. So in short, we are collecting some metrics. Important is that we already start collecting them before, so that we can show the history. We also, what we want to do is collect the Twitter stuff, because we were doing a lot of work there. Not because the Twitter is the only social media, but it's like gives enough representation. It's like if we see a bump, we can predict that it's also elsewhere.
Yeah, we've been seeing spikes in the graph. Those corresponded to releases.
Yes, well, releases, and there is always spike in contributions around actually now in December, and there are a few
people go on vacation. Yeah,
people go on vacation and they do crazy stuff, which is awesome.
Okay, so most important question, how can one help? So we have lots of viewers here and later in the recording. If you want to help grow the adoption of NixOS, get it in the hands of more people, how can you help the marketing team?
Yeah, so marketing team meets every second week. Yeah, we have marketing in the name, but we are not really, nobody of us is really a marketing person. Although we try, right? We try to do our best, and we actually, talk to the marketing people and get guidance there. There are tasks such as helping with news survey. These are really sort of low entry, but you get to know the community, which is the nice part. Like in very intimately. So survey, website, finding people to write CSS is not the easiest way. The people who really want to write CSS, the team we have right now, it's awesome. Please join us, because we need more. We have much more work that we have time for. So if you're a bit more on the front end, we would really like your help. If you're into writing, We finally have few people that actually are writing by their profession. So it's just amazing to have those people around, because if nothing else, you know that you suck, like me, writing something.
Putting it positively, you can learn a lot, which I can totally attest from first-hand experience.
You see, I'm a bit older and I get all negative already. No, so that's nice. So yeah, survey metrics. It's if you're an engineer just wants to do some, I think it's written in Rust, you want to collect this information, awesome. It's probably like a really nice intro, and you will get insights. And we're trying to revive the videos, what's new in Nix, and also record what's new in NixOS. But we're lacking on the sort of the time, basically. So if somebody wants to do the recording, we'll get you everything you needed, and it will be of great help. And yeah, we'll spread the Nix love.
Yeah, I can definitely attest from organizing this show is that a little help with inviting people, writing little blurbs, like coming up with ideas for what to talk about. Like, this is something that volunteers can definitely help with an hour here or there. I can imagine that the marketing team can use lots of help with, like, what stories to tell about NixOS, there's maybe briefly on the newsletter, what kind of stuff can one expect if you subscribe to the newsletter once it's more publicly available?
Yeah, so right now you get the summary of everything that's happened in the last month, sort of what we retweeted already, or what all the stories in the Discord. You get a kind of nice summary. What we're working on is it's sort of bringing more of the community, more of the community information. So what's the state of RFCs, which are in progress, which are not, what are the tutorials being worked on in the documentation team. We want to engage with, like, just generally more with other teams to show their work, because I think that's our sort of mission part, at least part of it, right? Is what other teams are working, we need to make sure it reaches all the audience. So this will be all in there. Hopefully more content. Like, this is a bit hard to say. What do we want? Many things, but let's see how much time do we have and energy. And remember, newsletter is a monthly, and you have to do this every month. It's fun the first 3 times, then it gets a bit not boring, but it gets tedious, right? And
that's why we need more people, so it stays fun, right? Because that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
So last question from me for today. Maybe there's someone else who wants to ask Rok something specific about marketing and growing the user base. So at some point when we met at some NixCon or something, we talked about how to organize things better. So for instance, how to deal with that type of tedious work better. And you said something along the lines of, but we're not a company. Like, you cannot run this as a company. But you've been repeating things like, we need more teams and we need more structure. Do you think the Nix community should be more like a company? Recently there was this talk at Strange Loop, the economics of programming languages, which essentially talks about the same. What do you think? Do we need more structure in the community so these things that you're talking about work better, to reach more people, to spread the love?
The conversation kind of goes back more into we need more teams, just because you need to find, these are sort of like groups of people that organize themselves, right? So what I was more than they're referring to is, do we need like companies are usually ran top down, and I think that we don't want as a community. We want this independence of each team. They have their own area of where they operate, but they need to work with other teams. And it's like, this is we need more structure. That's definitely, because as we will grow, we need to focus our efforts together. There are times when you want to diverge the efforts, but I think the more we converge, the more unified look. I mean, any project that does more convergence is just in a better situation. So yes, teams, let's give them responsibilities and duties. and
Possibly budget even.
Possibly even budget if needed. But let's keep them accountable. I think accountability is really important there as well. So I would like to make the whole thing just really fluid. It would be fine that you leave the team and you come back half a year just because you were, I don't know, you got a child or something, or just because it was hard that half a year, and you come back and it's like, exactly like, so this is what I would like to see happening almost soon. And I think it's already happening. Like good ideas, you bring people around you, give yourself a title, a team, talk to the others. Is this a team, or is there already a team which we should just join? Like, why not? Converge.
Okay, thank you very much, Rok, for this awesome talk. Thank you for being here, and everyone on the show. The next thing will be with Silvan Mosberger on Monday, November 27th at 19:30 UTC, where we'll talk about Nix package architecture. See you then, and until next time at the 2023 Nix Developer Dialogues. Thank you very much for being here. Bye.